Okay, this is a new one. I got a very interesting glitch in this game. So, this is a fictional train that I've made for a fictional route that I'm working on. It's a Brightline American Bullet Train. Basically, it's a bullet train that's painted in Brightline colors. Anyway, when we go to edit driver, it shows up the way you would expect it to show up. And you can even give it a message. I don't have anything on this route because this is just a test route, so let's just give it the load command for now. Now let's see what happens when you edit it again. Okay, it got rid of the message, didn't save the message, didn't save the driver, didn't save the train, but then it recreated it somewhere else and assigned it another driver. So the message I just gave it is completely null and void. And then when you edit it again, the same problem repeats itself. And then when you edit it again, the same problem repeats itself. And it does this over and over and over again. And even if you delete the ones that show up in red, it's going to keep doing that over and over again. Now, right now, I'm going to remove all the ones that show up in red just to show what happens. Let's assign the driver ourselves and see what happens. Okay, still didn't work. Interesting. Okay, the problem still persists. No matter which way you try to assign the driver to this train, it just won't work. Now, I found in the past that certain drivers I've downloaded from the download station can be a bit glitchy, but that's clearly not the issue because it's also doing this with built-in drivers. Okay, right now it's saying populating drivers, please wait. I've never seen this message before, so I'm not even sure what's going on right now. And also, you'd think it wouldn't take that long to populate a driver for the one train that I have on this route, the literal only train that's on this route. I've never had this issue before, so I don't even know where to start in order to try to get to the bottom of what's causing this problem. When I uncheck remove existing drivers first, the driver stays, but the train disappears into the ether even though it's still on the map. When I uncheck generate new drivers for empty trains, the same issue happens. Now, the only thing that's changed since I've started noticing this issue is I recently gave the train a script that allows you to change the destination signs, the same script that this train is using. So at first I thought that was the culprit, but this problem doesn't seem to occur when I use this particular tram. See, when I save it, it does not try to assign a second driver to the same train. So clearly the script isn't the issue. Next, I thought maybe the issue is specifically with trains that I made for the game. So this is a fictional tram that I'm working on. It's not finished yet because I haven't made any of the cars for it yet, just the locomotive. Okay, it assigned a driver to the tram. And then when I save the changes and edit it again, the driver is still there and the tram is still there. So this problem does not exist with this specific tram. Out of random curiosity, I'm going to test this built-in locomotive, a Class 37. It assigned a driver to it. So let's see what happens if we save changes and edit it a second time. It's still there. The train is still there. The driver's still there. No issues. And the third time, just for good measure. So definitely not happening with built-in locomotives, or at least not with that particular built-in locomotive. And the problem is not the script that I'm using, and it's not even the train that I'm using, because Most of the other trains that I've made don't have this issue. It's basically just the American Bullet trains that are having this issue so far. And I make pretty much all of my trains the same way. So I don't know why the issue would exist for this train and not another train that I've made. Now I'm testing a slightly older variant of this locomotive, which is basically just the Brightline logo but the red one. And this issue still exists. I thought that maybe an issue with the config file might be causing the game to not recognize the train as a locomotive and causing some issues, but I can't think of any issues with the config file that could cause that. I can't seem to find any of the usual culprits in it at the very least. It's got an engine, for example. There have been times where I forgot to give it one. And it's got an engine spec that is in fact one that is powered and doesn't have any errors with it. Now, I've had issues in the past where the engine spec for the Shinkansen wasn't working correctly in the game and it was causing the train to not appear in driver. So I gave this train a built-in TGV engine spec to solve the issue. Fun fact, in the original prototype of the American Bullet Train, I was going to give it a jet engine spec so that it could reach speeds of around 500 miles per hour, but during testing, I found that at that speed, the drive to track mark and drive via track mark command don't work, so I gave it the TGV engine spec instead. These are some earlier variants of the American Bullet Train, specifically in the Amtrak logo, which I'm currently working on an update for, and they are also plagued by this issue. I'm currently working on two paint schemes for the Amtrak variant, one for the Avalia Liberty, and the other one for this new rolling stock that they're working on. Anyway, to make sure the issue isn't the TGV engine spec, I'm going to test another locomotive that I gave this engine spec to, the Shinkansen 0K. It actually comes with a different engine spec, but I gave it the TGV engine spec because it was having issues. Although, I haven't tested it recently to see if the issues still persist. They may have been fixed by now. Okay, the Shinkansen is not affected by this issue, so the issue is not the engine spec. If it were, then all trains that had the same engine spec would have this issue. So it's not the engine spec at all. Okay, we've already established that the script is not the issue, because other trains with the same script don't have this issue at all. And in case you're wondering about the mass, I think I just gave it the same mass as the TGV. And as it turns out, if you're making an electric multiple unit train or something like that, all of the cars and the locomotive have to have the same mass if you want it to be compatible with portals. If you don't give them the same mass, for some reason, they will not come out of a portal correctly. By the way, interesting fact, the running numbers that I use for the Brightline Bullet Train are the same numbers that Brightline puts on their actual locomotives, but with a 1 in front of it. And that's pretty much it. That's the entire config file. As far as I can tell, there's nothing wrong with it that should cause the game to not recognize the locomotive, so I don't know what's going on here. This is the original Amtrak variant of the train, not the original prototype. That version, which was called the AM500, was scrapped because someone messaged me explaining to me that the rounded windows that that version of the train had would have been illegal because in real life the cab windows have to be flat and bulletproof. So I completely redesigned the train from the ground up, and this newer version has flat front windows. I also discovered smooth shading shortly after making that prototype, so I was able to make the train look round without it looking pixelated. You might notice the Amtrak version does not have a front coupler, but the Brightline one does. And that's because shortly after exporting the train, I realized, oh wait a second, what if the train breaks down? It should have a front coupler so it can be towed somewhere. When I update the Amtrak variant, it's gonna have front couplers as well. Anyway, let's see if this train is also affected by this issue. Yep, it looks like it is. So for some reason it's just the American bullet trains, but I'm not sure why. As we've seen, other trains are not affected by this glitch. Now I'm going to test some of the other trains that I've made for this game to see if they're also affected by this glitch. Prepare to cringe, because some of these are some of the first trains that I've ever made for this game, and they're pretty bad by my current standards. This train was obviously made before I discovered smooth shading. It was also made before I discovered how to make textures by scratch versus using picture-based textures. I'm not entirely satisfied by the interior either. It's not really that much detail in it, and I'm not entirely sure that the seats are the correct size. I might have scaled them incorrectly. But all that aside, let's see if this locomotive is or is not affected by this glitch. I actually have not used this locomotive since I made it, so I'm not sure. It did assign a driver to it, so that's good. Let's see what happens when you save the changes. It still saved the driver, so this locomotive is not affected by this glitch. So thankfully, the issue isn't just locomotives that I created, because I would have been really angry if that were the case. By the way, I am working on an update for all the Metro North equipment that I made. The thing is, making a cab takes a very long time apparently. I'm also going to be adding handrails, which I forgot to add in the original version of the train. I'm also going to be adding more detailed textures on the front and sides of the locomotive, and I'm going to make them more reflective, which is something I struggled with in the beginning. Now we have the Metro North M1, which is the first train that I've made for this game, and boy does it show. Like, the main issue with this one is that there are tiny holes in the mesh where light can escape, and to fix this issue in the future, I've made it so that the front and sides are all one piece rather than separate pieces. Also, some of the proportions might be a little bit off, but I'm not entirely sure. I basically use pictures and estimations to get all of the measurements, but I've discovered recently that pictures are actually a really bad methodology to use for this purpose, because apparently the picture is only accurate at one specific spot where the lens is focusing, and everywhere else is completely off, so it's not really something you can rely on. Blueprints are actually better if you can find them, but I'm not entirely sure where to go to look for them. The M1 is not affected by this glitch either. If I remember correctly, the M3 was the second train that I made. A little bit better than the first one, but there are still tiny holes where light can escape through the mesh, unfortunately. The M3 is also not affected by this glitch. Now this one's a little bit better than the other ones that I made. Still not as reflective as I wanted it to be, because again, I wasn't really sure how to make reflective textures back then. This one was also my first attempt at making a pantograph. It's not really that good, but in my defense, I wasn't entirely sure how pantographs worked back then. I recently watched a video that showed in detail how pantographs work in all their individual pieces, and I think that'll make it a lot easier to make a new one in the future. Okay, the M6 is not affected by this glitch. What about this one? Interesting fact, these locomotives have the wrong types of bogies. They're supposed to be GSI bogies, not Pioneer 3 bogies. But I forgot to make GSI bogies for it. That's another thing I'm going to have to fix in the update. I actually made two versions of the Pioneer trucks though. One with a third rail shoe and another one without one, in case someone wanted to use the bogie for a different purpose. It looks like the M4 is not affected by this glitch. Now let's look at another locomotive that I made for this game, the Amtrak AEM7, which is not released yet because I'm technically still working on it. Still got a lot of stuff I need to fix about it. Now we have the AEM7, and boy did I ever get roasted for this one. Which is weird to me because it's actually one of the more detailed ones that I've made for this game. Don't get me wrong, it's not perfect, and there are still some things that I want to fix on this one. But I wouldn't call it awful, you know. The first thing I want to do the next time I work on an update for this locomotive is fix that windshield wiper, because I made a couple of mistakes with how those two pieces are attached to the blade. You see, at first I thought these two pieces attached to the blade directly, one on top of the other. But after becoming a bus driver and realizing how these windshield wipers operate, I realized that I forgot a very important piece when making those windshield wipers. I forgot this piece right here. You see, windshield wipers on buses as well as trains operate very similarly to how pantographs work. This one piece is actually very crucial to the operation of this windshield wiper. Its job is to attach these two sections together and also attach directly to the blade, and its job is to hold the blade at a straight angle so that no matter which angle the pieces that move the blade are at, the blade is going to be straight. Without this piece, the blade would not wipe the windshield as efficiently. So that is a piece that I am going to include when I update this locomotive. By the way, in case it's not obvious, I was not driving when I took this picture. The bus was parked on the side of the road because the transmission died. This pantograph is actually my third attempt at making a pantograph for this game, and it's not awful, but there are a lot of things wrong with it, mainly because of me misunderstanding how pantographs worked. I also kept getting complaints that there weren't any grab irons on the train, which I don't understand because I placed a grab iron everywhere where one was present in pictures I looked at of the locomotive, and you can clearly see them right here, so I don't know what that's all about. Maybe I shouldn't have made them the exact same texture as the main body, so going forward maybe I'll make the grab irons a slightly darker shade of the same color to make them more visible. I don't know. Anyway, let's see if this locomotive is affected by this glitch. Okay, it looks like this locomotive is also affected by the glitch. So out of all the locomotives that we've tested, the only locomotives that seem to be affected by this glitch so far are the AEM-7 and my fictional American Bullet Trains. But the only thing that those two locomotives have in common is that they were both created by me. Like, I don't know why the game would assign glitches to just those two trains. Anyway, let's test the weathered version. Okay, the weathered version is also affected by this glitch. But again, these locomotives that are causing this glitch don't really have that much in common besides all being created by me. But other trains created by me aren't affected by this glitch, so I don't know what's going on here. Next, we have a fictional tram that I'm currently working on. I haven't finished it yet, I only have the cab unit so far. The cab units aren't really based on anything, they're completely made up, but the middle units, which I haven't started on yet, are going to be based solely on the Siemens Combino, which is my favorite type of tram in existence. Anyway, this tram is not affected by this glitch. Now, this is the New Jersey Transit Aero 3 train, and for some reason, I used a glow-in-the-dark texture for the doors. I'm not really sure why or how that happened. I'm guessing I just made a mistake and didn't catch it by the time I released it. Anyway, that's one of the first things I'm going to need to fix when I update this train. The next thing I'm going to have to fix is I actually wanted this train to be a lot more reflective than it actually is currently, because in real life, obviously, this train is stainless steel, so it's very reflective. But again, I struggled with reflective textures back then, so it doesn't look as reflective as I wanted it to be. I feel like I could do a way better job of making this train if I were to remake it now, but I just don't have the time to work on it right now. I also plan on giving this train way better textures, because my goodness, these look horrible. I don't know what I was thinking when I used these. The interior looks a little bit better, and the interior textures actually weren't taken by pictures. I actually just made those from scratch. And that was when I started to realize that textures made from scratch look better than textures that were derived from pictures. I feel like I scaled the interior incorrectly because the windows appear to be a bit too low, and the cab windows might be a little bit too high. Also, you might notice that the middle doors on this aren't animated, and that's mainly because of the specific way that I animated the doors on this particular locomotive. In any case, let's see if this locomotive is or is not affected by this glitch. The Aero 3 is not affected by this glitch as it seems. Now for the trailer unit. Interesting fact, I originally planned for the trailer unit to be not powered, but for some reason, there is no way to make it so that a train car is not powered and the headlights and horn also work. So I gave it the same engine spec as the powered unit just to fix that issue. Okay, so far so good. It recognized the trailer unit as a locomotive and it assigned a driver to it. And it looks like the trailer unit is not affected by this glitch either. Nope, it works just as expected. Now we have the SEPTA SILVERLINER IV, which despite being created before the Aero 3, in my opinion, actually looks a little bit better, and that's probably because for the Aero 3, I basically just attempted to retexture the Silverliner because I thought that would be faster, but as I found out, it doesn't quite work that way. Either way, man, I really need to do a texture overhaul on this one. It looks pretty bad by my current standards. Now let's see if the SEPTA SILVERLINER IV is affected by this glitch. The Silverliner IV is not affected by this glitch. Now we have the Silverliner IV trailer unit. The trailer unit of the Silverliner IV is not affected by this glitch either. Okay, so we've uncovered that this glitch only affects two specific trains that I've made, the AEM7 and all of my fictional American bullet trains. I'm not really sure why though, but for whatever reason it is, it only affects two specific trains that I've made. It does not affect any other type of train that I've made. And it also doesn't seem to affect built-in trains or trains that I've downloaded from the download station. And we know that the problem is not the script that I'm using on this train, because this train uses the exact same script and is not affected by this glitch. The fictional American Bullet Train and the real-life AEM7 are the only two trains that are affected by this glitch, as it seems. The only thing those trains have in common is that they were made by me, but other trains that were made by me are not affected by this glitch, so that's not what the issue is either. So I have no idea what's causing this glitch whatsoever. Anyway, that's all I have for this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.